Hey everyone, so this is a look at the MSI GTX 980 Ti Gaming 6G. This is a brand new NVIDIA graphics card. It's just below the Titan X, and it's not nearly as expensive. So I actually got this card today, and it is replacing a GTX 980, a Gigabyte GTX 980. Now, I really liked that the Gigabyte GTX 980 that I had. It was their WindForce one, and it was really great. Performance was great. Cooling was great. There was no coil whine. It was really quiet, even at higher fan speeds. And it was a really great card. So initially, I ordered the Gigabyte WindForce version of this 980 Ti, and I had some rather bad luck. It had coil whine like I've never heard before. Like, it was really loud. Now, I've had coil whine before, but it's never been as bad as that card was. So there does seem to be some issues with Gigabyte lately, where some people are getting it worse than others. Some people aren't getting it at all. So I tried this time to play it safe. I was like, well, no one seems to be reporting coil whine, or at least any heavy coil whine with the MSI ones, so I'm hoping this is the one. One thing you'll see is that this box did come wrapped. There's been some kind of difference of reports on this. Some people seem to be getting the MSI cards that are not wrapped, that are wrapped. I'm gonna say that if your card is not wrapped, then it's been opened. Now, whether it was opened by, someone who returned it, or, maybe it was wherever you bought the card, maybe they opened it just to make sure everything looked good, and then they just packed it up and they didn't, do anything with the card. But I'm going to say that most of the times, your product should either come sealed with wrapping, or there should be on the side like a sticker or something. Like EVGA does that. Okay, and so here we have the actual video card out of the box. I've already taken out the shrink wrap, and comes actually with this kind of neat little sticker on there. It says, the Zero Frozer. Remove before gaming. So it's a little, different than what you normally see on other vendor cards. I actually kind of like small details, but I mean, the red scheme they even carry across here on the protective bits, as well as over here. But most vendors, they'll just put on generic, black ones, and you'll see them, black or white or blue. Gigabyte is blue. But it's kind of neat that they've carried over the color scheme of the red. I also like the packaging in this. As you can see, it comes in a nice protective, foam. Other like EVGA does not do that. It's actually quite pathetic. EVGA used to do it, but now video cards come in like cheap plastic, containers that you can see through, and it just, I'm sure it does help with some of the, when the video card is, moving around, when people are shipping it and things like that. But I mean, at least this, it's nice and soft, and even if it gets bumped around a little bit, it's probably going to be okay. Gigabyte also does this foam as well, which is good. So yeah, EVGA has really cheapened out on their packaging, whereas MSI and Gigabyte are still doing it right, in my opinion. So now let's actually get this thing in the system and see what happens. Hey guys, so I'm happy to report the card's working fine. I'm going to be doing a lot more testing. Right now I've just reinstalled the drivers, reinstalled Precision, and just loaded up some Witcher 3, because the first thing I wanted to test is if there's any coil whine. And there is zero coil whine. Absolutely zero. And I can't even hear it even with my window side panel window off. So once I put it back on, it's even going to be, even if there was some, which there isn't, I probably wouldn't even be able to hear it. So here we can see the video card installed in the system and running. Although I was not really thinking I was going to like this video card in terms of looks because it has the red look going through it. As you can see there on the heatsink, there's some red, and it kind of goes into the back there as well. There is actually a bit of red already coming into my system because I have the Sound Blaster Z right there, and it has this red LED, which, again, red is not something I really wanted in my system, but there's no way I can turn that off, and I really like the sound on the external. I don't like onboard sound. I think as good as it has come, it's still not as good as Sound Blaster still does some really great sound cards. So there's something I can do where I can, you know, cut off that LED, but I mean, I don't really want to have to do that. Yeah, my system has always been kind of like a white theme. So that's why I had like the white rings on the Corsair fans, and then I had the, even though it looks blue, it's actually white fan in the back, and then I have the white here, and then my whole system is, you know, white. So I had a kind of white and black theme going on here, but I don't mind the red mixed in with it. It's not so bad. I really like how the MSI card has the heat pipes on the side there. Makes it a little bit more aggressive looking, more interesting to look at. And then you do have actually the MSI logo lights up white as well. So actually there's a bit of white, you know, from the video card that blends in with the system. So the red's not so bad. If you get a video card that has coil whine, don't accept it. Return it back for a replacement, whether you're within the, you know, normal return policy of the store that you bought it from. Get another one. It's not acceptable, and it drives me personally insane. Now, if there's a little bit, I might let it go. But if you can hear it with your case closed and everything, unacceptable. Some people will tell you, well, just change your power supply, just you know, change your motherboard, change your CPU, change your memory. It's all fucking bullshit. There's nothing, nothing else in your system makes everything else whine all of a sudden. Especially when the only thing you've updated in your system is your video card. So don't believe that bullshit out there where people say it's your power supply, it's your power supply. And then people say, well, I changed my power supply and now the coil whine's gone. Now the coil whine is gone. Yeah, that's because the coil whine was probably coming from your power supply, because that can happen. The most common components that coil whine are going to be the video card and the power supply. So, you know, that's just the way it works. Now I haven't overclocked this card yet, but I did boost the power limit up to 109%. And I did increase the thermal allowance up to 90 degrees. And that's what it's boosting at full load. You can see it's boosting to about 1300 megahertz, 1304 megahertz. The GPU temperature is it's about 73. That's pretty good, I think, for that clock rate. Now I have pretty good cooling in my system, so I'm not surprised it's keeping it cool. I ideally like to keep the video card maximum 80, but you know, it can go hotter. Don't worry about, you know, burning your video card or anything like that. You just don't want it to get up to, like, you know, 85 plus, in my opinion. You know, if you have an AMD card, then chances are that's pretty normal for you, but a little too hot for my liking. So yeah, I am gonna play around with this and do some overclocking, see what happens. And we're back, guys. So I've opened up Witcher 3 again, and this is with I would say a normal, not a low overclock, but a mild overclock. In precision, I upped it by 100 on the core, and you can see it's boosted up to about 16 megahertz. So that's pretty good. I don't know if this is stable yet, so I'm gonna have to run it and see what happens. But I think most of the 980 Ti's that I've seen in terms of, you know, user feedback and reviews are able to get over 1400. I mean, I've seen some even getting up to 1500, and that be if I could get 1500, that'd be amazing. But I'm not really sure. I did check the ASIC quality, which you can check in a program called GPU-Z, and it was about 66%. I'm not really happy with that. But that ASIC quality doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have like a higher ASIC quality doesn't mean you're necessarily going to have a better overclocking GPU. It just means that your GPU needs more voltage to get where you're wanting it to be. So it mainly means more power, more heat. So that's why ideally you want to have a higher one. Like, you know, anything above 70%, in my opinion, is great. And, you know, you don't really see a lot of GPUs that are like, you know, over 75% or even in the 80s. I personally have never seen that before. The Gigabyte GTX 980 Ti that I had was actually really great ASIC quality. It was like 75%. But like I said, it had that terrible fucking coil whine, so there was no way I was keeping it, even if it did have a good ASIC quality. So, you know, and my 980, my regular 980 Gigabyte, it had an ASIC quality of like under 65% actually, and it was a pretty good overclocker. So, like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean much. It just means you need more voltage, and your GPU needs more juice. You can see that having it run for a little bit, the temps have risen. We're at 75, whereas without the overclock I was around, I think, 72. So it did bump up my temperatures a bit. But again, this is I would still find these temperatures acceptable. Anything under, I like to keep it under 80, like I think I said earlier. So once it reaches 80, I'll, you know, stop overclocking, because I you know, it doesn't, once you get over a certain threshold, the overclock doesn't really matter so much. You might gain 1 or 2 frames per second. But yeah, I'm gonna see if this is stable for a bit, and then I'll do another cutaway here to my final bit of this video. I'm not thrilled with the performance of my overclock on this video card, unfortunately. It seems to top out at around 1420 boost. And that's with no voltage added. I could increase the voltage a little bit to on the video card, but I don't really like increasing the voltage on the video card. I like to keep it, because the problem is the you increase the voltage, you increase the heat, and then you can't sustain your boost clocks as often, because with the Maxwell and GPU Boost 2.0, you get better performance on average if you can sustain your boost. So it's better to keep your temperature under control rather than just trying to get as much on the core as you can. But I'm fairly happy with 1420. I mean, it's reasonable. I mean, it's a lot better than what the new Furies are doing in terms of overclocking. You know, this card is still faster than the Fury X, so I'm quite happy. So yeah, the fan right now is at 65%. I have it manually set. There's been some reports that some people said that like their temps are really high on this card. The fan's really loud and things like that. I've had no issues. I don't really. The fan doesn't become really noticeable and annoying until you reach about 70% or higher. So I just have it set in my system to never go past 70%. And it sounds fine. It just, my build is fairly quiet. And I have pretty good cooling on this system. I have two 120 intakes in the bottom, and then I have two 140s at the front for intake. So, and then I have one 140 for exhaust, and then at the top here, it's gonna be kind of hard to show, but I have two 140s for exhaust at the top. So as everyone knows, heat rises. So I have basically 4 intakes and 3 exhausts. And you know, for me, I always say it's better to have more intake, more cool air going in, than having more exhaust fans. My ambient temperature in the room is, I usually keep it around 23 degrees Celsius, which I think is fairly considered normal. So I mean, the higher your ambient room temperature is, the higher your temps of your system, overall system is, and your components are going to be. But I mean, I can if I touch these heat pipes, you know, at idle, the card is like, you know, it's not warm to the touch. So like at idle, I'm getting about 28 degrees Celsius. Now I have the card by default, auto settings on this video card will turn the fan off, but then the temps on your video card will be high even at idle. So I don't think you should not have your fans running at all. You should at least have them running a little bit, even at idle. But there's some real quiet freaks out there, and I have to say, I don't like a really loud system either. But this is, with the cover back on, my system I think is pretty quiet, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't bother me. So yeah, I'm really happy with this video card, so I would recommend it. And yeah, that's gonna be it. So thanks for watching.